So you've had a long day and you've heard some wonderful professional things full of, I'm sure, knowledge, even numbers. I am going to take you on a different journey. In the last wonderful talk, Mr. Chitle said that a CA firm is not just a firm, it's not a collection of individuals. And it's one of the fundamental things that the army understands very well. The other thing he said is, whether you are listening on startup or you're listening about audit or listening about anything, listen to it as auditors. Now that's made my job very tough because I'm about to give you life and leadership lessons from the army. Just 3 lessons which I wish to point out are completely relevant to your life. And how I'm going to do it is, I will tell you stories, true stories from the operations. It will also give you a flavor of what the army does. Hopefully it will also inspire you. And it will also tell you what you can draw for your own life. I think this won't work from here. Yes. I'm going to start with this question which is there on the screen, which, when I often present, looks like a very nonsensical question. How would you respond if you were working in your company and there was a violent incident, there was a dacoitry or whatever, and you got shot in the head? Obviously you survived, did not get any special recognition, did not get any special award. How would you feel? How loyal would you be? Or how much would you be attracted to the same organization? Now the question obviously looks very silly and hypothetical. I assure you that it's neither silly nor hypothetical. This question comes from the story of that young boy who you see sitting on the screen, Jubin Matthew. You can see him sitting next to a television somewhere in a small town in Kerala. Jubin came from a family which had never had a single person going into the army, like my family, like most families. Children go for the first time. And at the age of 17, he joined the National Defence Academy. By the time he had turned 26, he was already serving, he had been an officer for the last 5 years, and he was serving in J&K, where he took part in a lot of operations. Now his battalion was located in the area of Manasbal. Those of you who've gone to Kashmir and those of you who've gone to a village in Kashmir will know that the villages are very thickly populated. There are narrow streets. And if you have to operate in those villages looking for terrorists, it's hell of a tough job without killing civilians. So, in a village called Sura, there was information that there are some terrorists sitting in a house. Which house? Nobody knew. Jubin took a party, surrounded the mohalla or the street. And then after some time, one of the militants fired and hit a boy, hit one of our soldiers. The soldier was hit in the shoulder, but survived. Now to spot where exactly the fire had come from, I must tell you from personal experience that when AK-47 starts firing, you can't make out where the bullets are coming or where the bullets are hitting. All you hear is a huge noise. So Jubin, who was taking cover behind a hut, wanted to find out where the fire came from. So what did he do? He did what most army officers, not most, every army officer does in Kashmir. They didn't send a Jawan to find out. He decided to find it out himself. So as he poked his head from behind the hut, unfortunately the terrorist was looking from a window and he fired and hit Jubin in the head. He was hit in the forehead, exactly in the middle, between the 2 eyes. He was wearing a bulletproof jacket and a bulletproof patka. Now these bulletproof jackets and patkas, which are made of Kevlar, They mostly save your life, but it is not as if you don't get injured. The kinetic energy of the bullet is so much that you get very badly hurt. So Jubin fell back, his patka splintered, his glasses splintered, and a lot of shrapnel got into his skull. The rest of the Jawans managed to drag him out and bring him behind the hut, where Jubin, being the commander of the operation, refused to be evacuated. He said, "Itni chot thoda lagi hai. So we will first finish the job." Next 2 hours, there was a firefight. 3 terrorists were killed. And finally, Jubin was evacuated to a hospital in a vehicle which he drove. Once he reached the hospital, the doctors declared that he was serious. So they immediately put him under anesthesia, opened up his skull, tried removing the shrapnel, but number of shrapnel never came out because they were so deeply embedded. Now, after a few weeks of staying in the hospital, he was given 8 weeks of sick leave to go back to Trivandrum and recover. When you are given sick leave, it's not an option, it's an order and sensible thing to do. What did Jubin do? He defied the order and rejoined the unit. When I asked him much later that, why did you rejoin? Who asked you to rejoin? He said, sir, he talks very little. He said, sir, मेरे को कौन बोलेगा? मैं तो अफसर हूँ, मेरे को कोई बोलेगा थोड़ा. पर सर, पलटन में ना अफसरों की कमी थी. So I said, let me go, I can at least do a desk job and relieve somebody else. Few months later, there was another operation. This time the information came from another village in Manasbal, and the party that went for those terrorists included these 2 people, Jubin and that youngster that you see on the left, Ravi Kamboj. They went, again they surrounded a street. The firing was coming from, it appeared, from a multi-storied hut, building, not hut, building, a 2 or 3 storied building in the village. But nobody was clear. Outside there was a big courtyard, and in the courtyard there was a smaller hut. And that hut had 2 partitions. One where the Kashmiris keep their haystack, and the other where there are animals. So Lieutenant Ravi Kamboj said, I'm going to go into the hut and try to get closer to the building and find out where the firing is coming from. Once he got inside, he couldn't see anything. So he decided to break the mud wall which was separating the haystack from the animals. Unfortunately for him, the terrorists were actually sitting with the animals. So the moment he burst open a hole, they fired. They fired a burst of AK-47. Ravi Kamboj died on the spot, and another Jawan also died who tried to save him. Now Jubin is standing outside. He hears this firing. What do you think a man's reaction should be who has just been shot in the head a few months ago? He decided to crawl into the hut to save these 2 guys. But once he got inside, he got hit. No prize for guessing where he got hit. In the forehead, between 2 eyes. This time again, the bulletproof patka splintered. He fell back. He also got shot in the chest, started bleeding, and lost part of his hearing. I remember the second time he was in hospital, I sent him a short note. I said, very proud of you, but don't lose your head. Now, Jubin again got repaired, again came out. He did not get any award or medal for this. Please understand that in the army, everybody doesn't get a medal just because you've been shot. The qualification bar is slightly higher. But he again rejoined the unit. And then, a few months later, he took part in a 3rd operation where he did not get shot, killed a militant and got a Sena medal. I give you this very long story of Jubin Mathew for a reason. Because, as I'll show you in a minute, there are lots of Jubin Mathews sitting in this hall. Now, the question that I get asked often is, what is this big difference between the guys who are in the Fauj and the rest of the country? I'm sure you know that in the army there is no bonus at the end of the year. There is no appraisal. You can do what you like. You will get the same pay. There is no extra money given to you if you are short. So somebody in IIM Ahmedabad asked me, they said, why are you guys so different? And that's a question to be asked. Whenever I ask this question back to the audience, I get some replies. I will not bother you today. I will just tell you the replies I get. The first reply I always get is, because you people are more patriotic. That's complete nonsense. I served in the army for 41 years and 4 months. I never heard the word patriotic even once. Nobody talks about patriotism in the army. This talk is only in the Hindi movies and serials and Twitter. Everybody's patriotic, suddenly. So people say, maybe it's training. Nobody can be trained to get killed. Nobody can be trained enough to do what Jubin did. And by the way, Jubin is not an extraordinary example. He's just one of the many, many, many examples that I've seen with my own eyes. He's not even a celebrity in the army. Nobody knows him. So then, what's the difference? At the point when people join the army and the rest of the people who join banks, politics, business, chartered accountancy, railways, or wherever, the difference is this. Absolutely nothing. And I'm saying this not to make you happy. When I joined the army, I came from a Punjabi medium school, had lived in a one-room house most of my life, had never spoken English the day I appeared for the interview. What's the difference between me and everybody else or rest of the people? We all come from the same middle class, same small town, same villages, same language, same parenting, same financial anxieties. But obviously there is something different. That difference, that magic happens after you join the organization. And that is the first lesson that you have to draw. What changes is, because army has a fantastic culture. Every CA firm has a culture. Every family has a culture. We are driven by that culture. If we are lazy, because chalta hai meri company mein. If we are efficient, it is because nahi chalta, wahi karna padta hai. Now, I'm not going to talk about culture because it's a subject in itself. But the second thing that changes is our mindset. That is in your hands. And that mindset is what I'm going to leave you with today at the end of the next 25 odd minutes. That's what makes the difference. Now, the 3 lessons that we will talk about are these. First of all, do you really understand your role? I'm not talking about your job description. I'm not talking about your designation. I'm not saying whether you're a father or a mother or who you are. That's the first thing that you learn in the army. Your role is how much contribution are you making. The second, if you want to lead, there is only one way to lead. Lead by example. And third, I will answer the question, how do Fauji's take stress and uncertainty and anxiety, because that is our life. Now, let's start with the first one. Like I said, who are you? What is your role? I go and ask this in colleges and schools, and people get up and say, my role, I'm a teacher. That's who I am. Yes, that's right to a degree. That's not what your role is really. Your role is, do you really own what you are doing? Are you the master, the hero of what you are doing? Are you a Jubin Matthew? And therefore, you have to be very clear that if you're coming to the office and you don't own the work you do, then you can't be the owner, no? Are you the CEO of what you do? Now, let me explain this with a simple story. I commanded an anti-terrorist battalion in J&K, 97 to 99. One of my companies decided to go into jungles for 2 days looking for terrorists. I went along as a CO. 2 days later, when we came down from the jungles, completely tired, and we had no success. When we came to the company headquarters, it was 9 o'clock at night, and the company commander said, he said, sir, your headquarters is still 2 hours away. Why didn't you stay back and have dinner? I said, sure. As is the tradition in the army officers don't eat before the men have eaten, before the soldiers have eaten. So we said, all right, let's first go and see what the Jawans are getting today. We were all living in tents. So when we went there, the food was all right. It was chapati and chawal and dal and sabzi and salad as food is. But I called the Jawan who was looking after the food. In army, everybody is a commander. So the Jawan who supervises food is called Langar commander. So I called the Langar commander. I said, beta, log 2-3 दिन इतना चल के आए, लड़ाई करके आए. Why didn't you make something special? He said, sir, in supply I didn't get chicken, I didn't get eggs. So what special could I do? I said, all right, give him money, take 3-4 soldiers with weapons, go to a town, go to a nearby village, buy all the eggs, come back and prepare some nice egg curry. And the Jawans who were lining up for food, I said, all of you go back to your tent, everybody gets a rum from me to drink, have a little party, and then you come back and have food. Next day, I again went to that company and I again called that Jawan. And I asked him this question, which will clarify what I mean. I said, beta, what is your role? He said, sir, my role is to get food made. I said, खाना अच्छा बने, गंदा बने, उसमें कुछ गिर जाए, tasty बने, ना बने, वो चलेगा? He started thinking. He said, no, I think the CEO is going to catch me. So he said, no, sir, my role is to make hygienic and tasty food. I said, but why would you care? Your pay will not go up, whether you make bad food or good food, same pay. So why would you care? He said, no, sir, when I prepare tasty food and hygienic food, the Jawans' morale goes up. They are more motivated. So I said, you're not the Prime Minister of the country. Why are you worried about morale of the Jawans? Your pay will remain the same. He looked surprised. He said, sir, when I make tasty food and hygienic food and the Jawans' morale goes up, then they go out and kill terrorists. I said, that is your role. You are helping kill terrorists. You're not supervising chapati making. Your contribution is to kill terrorists. Now think about your role. All right? I'm not going to specify anything for you. Think about what you do as a father, as a mother, as a family member, as a chartered accountant. What is your larger role? How many people's life are you really influencing? How much do you own it? That is what is role. Now, I'll give you another example of a role. You all know what happens in Siachen. Temperatures plummet to -50. There's no oxygen. Breathing is hard. Life is, you cannot imagine the life there. Okay? If you're not careful, you'll be buried in snow by morning. So, in one of the battalions, the Pakistanis fired from across the border, as they do, artillery firing, and killed 3 of our Jawans one day. Unfortunately, on the same day, a telegram came from the Subedar Major of the battalion, who is the senior most Jawan, that his 20-year-old daughter had died in an accident. Right? Please understand that none of these stories are exceptional stories. These are regular stories. So, Subedar Dewan Singh was called and told that your daughter's died. He cried inconsolably. He was distraught. And then he was told, look, weather is packing up. We are trying to get a helicopter. We'll send you to Leh, and then we'll try and get you a ticket. You go to Chandigarh or Delhi, and then you take a train, and then you take a bus, and you reach home, and your daughter's cremation will only happen once you've reached. So Dewan Singh, after some time, thought about it, and he told the CEO, he said, sir, it's the worst day of my life, the biggest tragedy. My only girl is gone. But these 3 boys are also my family, because I'm the Subedar Major of the battalion. So I'm afraid I will first do their cremation, and then I will go. So he climbed a post, which took him 1 full day, 24 hours, went there, took 3 days to do the cremation, because there is no oxygen. So even unfortunately, mortal remains burn very slowly. There's hardly any wood. And then he walked back, and then he went home, and then he did whatever he had to do. You see, the stories I'm telling you, like I said, are not some great Paramveer Chakra stories. Those you know. There are books on it. But I'm just telling you how much of a difference it makes to life when your culture is such that you do extraordinary things. And how much is your mindset? Today, when I speak to the generals of this battalion, the first name they take is Devan Singh. Right. Now, you might say, that's very inspiring, wonderful, but why the hell should I really care? I am good enough earning my money, my job is all right, I come in the morning and go in the evening. Why should I really care about all this? Fortunately, and I am also a civilian now for the last many years, we don't have to face bullets or die or do any of this nonsense. So for us to do extraordinary things is far easier, far simpler. And I'll tell you why you should do this. When you get to be my age, and I'm 65, and I look at all my colleagues, there is one question is bothering everybody. Zindagi nikal gayi, maine kiya kiya? What did I really do? And it is too damn late because it's gone. You question yourself. What did I achieve? What did I do? What did I contribute? So I have made a very simple template formula for this. Think of your grandchild. He or she is sitting on your lap and saying, Dadi, Dada, Nana, Nani, whatever. जब आप उस कंपनी में थे आपने क्या किया? If the answer is, I used to go at 10 o'clock with a tiffin and come back at 5, you're going to feel very bad about it, believe me. If the answer is something different, and what different can it be? In the company where I was a CEO, I've been CEO of 2 companies. The company where I was CEO was a multi-storied building. There were a number of lifts. In one lift, there was an old man. Every time I came, I used to come 1 hour before the office time. He would be shining the lift. And many times he told me, he said, sir, ये lift है ना, चलाना आसान काम नहीं है. मैं चमका के रखता हूँ, बाकी लड़कों को भी हड़का के रखता हूँ. 20 साल में कभी लिफ्ट वर्किंग डे पे खराब नहीं हुआ सर, क्योंकि मेंटेनेंस संडे को होती है. अगर हमारी लिफ्ट खराब होगी तो आपके कस्टमर कैसे पहुंचेंगे? Here is a man who understands what his role is. Here is a man who will be lifted on shoulders the day he retires, or when he comes back to that company. And he used to say it. कि सर मेरी तो बहुत इज्जत करते हैं लोग, बड़ा इज्जत करते हैं सर. मैं तो, he was in my eyes the lift commander. Now, so there is a story we are all writing. Sure, we are affected by environment and everybody else, but as I realize today, having grown up with in the same cricket team with Kapil Dev and having seen same course as General Bipin Rawat, I realize we all write our own story. We are the hero, we are the director, we are the producer, we are the heroine. Unfortunately, we are also the villain, so you have to choose. The second lesson is about leading by example. If you want to forget everything about leadership and pick up one thing, please pick this. Forget about courage, moral, integrity, honesty. Pick this one. Because people only do as you do. Nobody's a fool. People watch you. People watch me. Even your own children at certain point stop doing what you say. And they start becoming like you. Have you noticed that? Many times I catch myself talking like my father. We do as you do. If our own flesh and blood is not going to just listen to words and listen to example, what chance have you got that you will motivate a chartered accountant company by just saying fancy words? How many people stand on the podium and say, we are a customer-centric, we are this-centric, we are that-centric? Nobody cares. So, what is leading by example? As I said, one more story. This is a personal one. 4th of June 1997, when I was in Kashmir, we were going in number of vehicles. The road was a Kacha road. The terrorists had planted explosives under the road. It's called improvised explosive device. It is connected to an antenna, and somebody sits with a remote on the hill, 200 meters away, line of sight, and they blow you. My vehicle went past and nothing happened. Maybe it malfunctioned or maybe they were not there. 10 minutes later, the next vehicle got blown up. The crater was 8 feet deep. The vehicle got thrown up so high that other people saw it higher than the eucalyptus trees. It took 2 tumbles in the air and smashed against the ground and was looking like this. One major and 2 Jawans died instantly. 1 young lieutenant and 2 Jawans were trapped in this Malba. And the terrorists started firing on the vehicle to kill these 3 guys. So this young lieutenant who was 21-year-old, Ravi Loganathan, he somehow crawled outside and he lay on the ground bleeding and he kept firing back. We heard this blast 10 minutes ahead. We got down from the vehicles. People said, don't go in the car now, don't go in the vehicle. There'll be more IDs. Go running. So we all picked up our AK-47s and we were running towards the firing. Now those of you who've seen senior army officers serving here in Eastern Command or wherever, colonels and above wear a red colored thing on their collars, not collar dog. The rule is, it is to be worn in peace stations. It's not to be worn in operations because the enemy otherwise knows who's the boss. But I had become a new CO. I was 10 days old. I was still wearing them. So the officer running next to me said, sir, you should take them off. Somebody will kill you and then, there'll be chaos. And I said, yes, I will take it off. But instantly I did not because my mind was preoccupied with what we are going to do next. 100 steps later, the soldier running on my left, who was the unit barber, okay? Fauji barbers wear uniform and carry AK-47s. Barber, Rooplal, stopped me. He said, sir, एक बात कहूँ? मैंने कहा, हाँ. He said, sir, जो मेजर साहब ने बात की, बड़ी पते की बात की आपको. ये कोई बहादुरी थोड़ा सा ये लगा के घूमते रहते हो आप. ये तो रूल में भी नहीं है. I'll tell you his exact words. He said, sir, अभी आपको कोई मार देगा, फिर भगदड़ मच जाएगी, फिर क्या होगा? तो I said, हाँ, रूपलाल, मैं इसको निकालूंगा. He said, नहीं, sir, मेरी पूरी सलाह ये नहीं है. मेरी पूरी सलाह ये है कि अभी आप इसको आज नहीं निकालना, चाहे आपकी जान भी चली जाए. और 3 महीने नहीं निकालना, सर, क्योंकि आप तो कमांडर हो ना, सब आपको देखते हैं. लोग ये ना कहें 2-3 लोग मरते हैं, हमारा सीओ घबरा जाता है. सर, आपने तो उदाहरण देना है. This is leading by example. This is what a Jawan understands, what leading by example is. He is telling his CO, get killed, but set an example. And to honor Rooplal, I did not take them off for the next 3.5 years. And as you can see, I didn't get killed. Okay. So, the point I want to make is, but when you lead by example, it has to be done authentically. This cannot be faked. Words are cheap. You can't just say things and I am leading by example. Before I tell you this story, I want you to just ponder over this question. What is leading by example for you? It's certainly working harder than the people who work under you. It is certainly being more competent than people who worked under you. It is certainly being better behaved, better dressed all the time. It's certainly the person who takes the actual risks, not throws his people under the bus. And most importantly, it is somebody who protects their people who work under them like their own children. That is leading by example. Here is a story that will tell you how leading by example is. This is Kargil. A battalion of Rajputs captured a post called 5770, which is 5770 meters high. Extremely difficult area. They killed all the Pakistanis there. I think there were some 20 odd of them, including Captain Taimur Malik, who I have pointed an arrow. Taimur Malik was a commando officer of Pakistan Army. He also was killed. And as is our custom, we buried all of them with full military honors. Now burying is quite a task because there's not enough oxygen for you to walk. So you have to dig and then you have to put people inside and you have to do all that, but everything was done. A couple of months later, something strange happened. A month later, Taimur Malik's grandfather, who was a judge in Pakistan, retired judge, used to live in England. He went to the Indian embassy in London and he said, my grandson died. People are crying like anything. They are distraught in the house. It's a strange request, can your government dig up my grandson's body, somehow find where he is and send him back to Pakistan? The request came all the way to the army and the army chief, General Malik, called the CO, whose picture I put in the middle. That time he was a lieutenant colonel, Konsam Himalaya Singh from Manipur. He was asked, the chief said, this is not an order. Only if you guys can do it. Because, I can't order you to start digging all over the hill looking for enemy bodies and finding a captain. So Himalaya Singh said, sir, it will be done, but I have a condition. He said, what? He said, in the Indian army, we don't leave our soldiers behind, whether they are dead or they are alive or injured. And we don't take care of officers more than we take care of Jawans. This will set a bad example. Please permit me, I will dig up all the bodies, and all bodies of all Pakistani Jawans will be sent back to Pakistan. That is what was done. This is leading by example authentically, no matter what happens. So, what is the end result of all this? I'm going to take another 5 minutes. What's the end result of all this? The end result of all this is that people then actually follow you because they feel protected. They know the officers walking in front. After the Kargil war finished, the Time magazine published an interview with a Pakistani officer. The edition is dated 12th of July, 1999. This Pakistani officer had spent 77 days in Kargil before withdrawing or running away, whatever. You know what he said? You don't have to read the whole slide. I've underlined some things for you. This is what he said. He says those Indians were crazy. First you see 4, you kill them. Then there are 10. Then there are 20. You're firing at them, you're worried. Your fingers are tired firing and killing them. And you're worried that you will run out of ammunition. The people who do this and follow the officers of the army are from the exact same background as everybody sitting here. That is how much difference leading by example really does. We come to the last bit. The third. People often ask, okay, so you have a life of uncertainty. When you go out in operations, you don't know who's going to come back alive. How do you face stress? Because there's so much stress in our lives. Kabhi COVID hai, kabhi ye hai, kabhi wo hai, kabhi, bottom line, top line, hazar tamashas. The first thing I want you to remember is your fears are your worst liars. This is a life lesson. Think of all the things that you were afraid of from the day you were in school, college, and now. How many have come true? Your fears don't come true. We magnify them in our heads. But what does the army do? Each one of you has a challenge inside. I will call it your enemy, a challenge. Okay? Somebody is worried about money, somebody is worried about relationship, somebody is worried about something else. We have an enemy which is sitting across the border. What do? And you can draw a parallel. First of all, we look at that enemy very carefully. We don't imagine things. We don't blow up things in our head. We look at him with eyes, we do patrolling, we look at it using infrared, thermal imaging, helicopter reconnaissance, aircraft, satellite photography, everything. Do you really look at your problems carefully like that? Or do you just start imagining at 10:30 at night when you lie down in the bed, my life is going to be over after COVID. Main sadkon pe aa jaunga, as many people used to say to me. The second, we look at those things not just because of threats, then we're looking for opportunities, as many people in the education sector did during COVID. They started doing edtech platforms. And then you must make an actionable plan. Whatever is worrying you, please do not dream, desire, need. Make a plan. And a plan is a plan with specifics. Which date, by when will you do it, what will you do, how much sacrifice will you make. But before you do that, use the correct sources. Today you see how much information and misinformation on COVID has started already. Please rely on the right sources. Relying on WhatsApp for your wisdom is like army using maps of Nagaland for operations in deserts. Read to the best. And finally, when you make a plan, please act on it, even if the action is a little bit. Act every single day. The second reason why in the army the stress levels are not what they are, and this is the last thing I will tell you. The army believes very strongly that you must always have reserves. I'll explain this to you and how it is relevant to you. So what you're looking at is, when we attack a company of, say, Pakistanis, made in red, the ratio is 3:1. Two companies attack, Alpha and Bravo. Charlie is in reserve. Always in reserve. Because if you don't have the reserve, you cannot influence the events. Let us say the attack starts and Alpha company starts getting thrashed. Alpha company will be pulled back, Charlie will be put into action, and now Alpha company will become a reserve. What does this really mean for you? What it means for you is this. We all should create reserves of these four things. I don't have to explain money to you, you're professionals, you know money better than I do. Having that little money in the bank reduces your stress. Having that reserve always reduces your stress. But also, please create reserves of time. If there is something you need to do in 1 year, you must plan to do it in 8 months. Because things will go wrong. Nothing goes as per plan. Reserves of health, and most important, reserves of relationship. Is your family relationship, your relationship with your parents, with your children, so good on a daily basis that the day there is a crisis, your family will stay together? These reserves are absolutely a must. And when I look back at my life in the army, I realize for everything we had a reserve. And as a result, we always felt good. There is somebody behind who will act. This is the last story, and one of the best ones. So, fear will strike all of us. Anxiety will strike all of us. People ask us, how is it that the army officers are not, Fauji's are not scared? Well, the truth you know, everybody is scared. Every single time you hear the rat-a-tat of AK-47, you are, pardon my use of the language, shit scared. Everybody is scared. There is no person who wants to die. What is the secret then? The secret is what Sam Manekshaw told everybody. Now you know, he was the most iconic field marshal of India. When he was a major in Second World War, he was in Burma, living in the jungles in tents, commanding Sikh troops. One of the Jawans in his company was a guy called Sohan Singh, who was 6 feet 4 inches tall. Manekshaw had said, this boy is not good, he should not be promoted. So he was not promoted. One day, the Subedar Sahab of the company came to Manekshaw and said, sir, Sohan Singh is telling everybody that tonight he is going to kill you with a pistol. So Manekshaw said, call him. When he was brought, he said, Sohan Singh, I believe you want to kill me? He said, nahi sir, wo to main mazak kar raha sir. Aise kaise ho sakta hai? So Manekshaw took out his pistol and gave it to him and said, here, if you're a man, do it now. Nahi sir, main to mazak kar raha tha. So Sohan was sent back. 1 hour later, when it was night, Subedar Sahib came back. He said, sir, aapne bahut galti kiya. Sohan Singh is telling everyone, maine to sahab ka buddu bana diya. I'm going to kill him. Aaj raat ko. So Manekshaw said, call him back. When he came back, Manekshaw said, okay, Sohan Singh, here is my pistol. You will guard my tent when I'm sleeping. And tonight, you will guard. And 5:30 in the morning, I want you to get me a mug of hot tea and a mug of hot water to shave. You get it? He said, haan sahab. And next morning, Sohan Singh brought him tea and water. And rest of the war, in Manekshaw's words, Sohan Singh followed Manekshaw like a lamb. So people asked him, you did that, were you not scared? Manekshaw said, scared? I was scared out of my wits. I couldn't sleep the whole night. The whole night I was waiting that kuch hoga. But he said, you know what? I'm a leader. I'm not supposed to show fear. This is the secret army leaders have. We don't show fear. Because the moment you start showing anxiety on your face, two things happen. People around you get worried. It's like a father coming home and saying, Beta, मुझे लग रहा है, मेरे पास पैसे नहीं होंगे 2 महीने के बाद और हमें घर से निकाल दिया जाएगा. You can't do that. You have to pretend to be brave. The second important thing that the army people can teach you is, when you act like that, when you stay calm on the outside, force yourself to look brave, your brain starts sending the right message to your body. You start feeling brave. I've seen it so many times. Once there was firing going on and I was telling a Jawan, I was pushing him behind a stone, a boulder. I was saying, "Tune marna hai kya? Niche kar sir." He said, "Sir, aap to khade ho." You forget. And I'm not a brave man. You just forget. So please remember that. And remember what all army guys know. You only die once. No point coming to office every day and dying every day. Kya fayda? When the worry strikes you at night, this is not an advice from the army. I will just say, the only question you should ask yourself is this worry useful? Some worries are very useful. You got a major audit coming up and you haven't done enough work. You are worried at night. Good worry. Good worry is which worry? Which can be acted upon. You can jump out of the bed, start doing something, or at least put the alarm for 5 o'clock in the morning and start doing something. Ask yourself, is this worry useful? If it is not useful, if there is nothing you can do about it, please open the window and throw it out. It's absolutely of no use. Okay, so I've come to the end of this conversation that I wanted to have with you, and I've already asked you this particular question. The reason why you see that lion on that last slide is because I was talking to somebody, I was giving a talk like that to SDFC. Somebody came out with a very good question. He said, "Sir, do you know why is lion the king of the jungle?" And I said, "Not really." And recently when I went to the Officers Training Academy in Chennai, I asked this question to the cadets. Do you know why is lion the king of the jungle? Koi election to hota nahi. There's no election, no selection, then how? And one cadet got up and gave me the right answer. He said he's the king of the jungle because he believes he's the king of the jungle. Please believe in yourself. Thank you very much for being a wonderfully patient audience. I'm finished. And if there is anything you want to ask, you're most welcome. But if you really want to ask, the question should be from the syllabus. Anything? Of course. You see, I'm not really, didn't really mention directly to your business that you should keep. Firstly, all good companies. I understand, but don't you think that every good business has money in the kitty? I'm advisor to a couple of companies. They're cash rich. They always have money in the kitty. The thing is, if you don't have reserves of money or any of the things I mentioned, then when the crisis begins, you can't react. There is nothing new you can do because you have nothing in your hands. How will you react? So the companies which were cash rich, and when COVID struck, they could play. Companies which are running from month to month with terrible cash flows and nothing in the hand, how would they do it? I understand there's a cost. Obviously, if you got money lying dormant in a bank, it has a cost. But is there a way to get around it? I doubt it. Not in a world which is uncertain. Anything else? Thank you, and thank you for not asking a question on Agniveer.